What is up? James and Sae'Von back again. Today, we're going to talk about something that none of you explicitly asked for, but you all need. We feel it prudent to talk about dreaming bigger. A lot of people think too small. They don't think that they can handle something that's at a high level. They second guess. They blow their own tires out. They shoot their own foot. Whatever kind of metaphor you want to use. We self-sabotage a lot. We're going to go into not only why we do that, but why there's a need to not do that and the solution that you should take to get there. So I think that we should start with, first of all, where we found in recent months, weeks, days that we've found out that we need to dream bigger. You want to tell them about a tweet that was sent over by our dear friend AJ?
Yeah. So AJ sent us this message in our group thread, and what the guy was tweeting, I can't remember the guy's name right now, but he basically said it was something to the effect of anybody who thinks $100,000 is a lot of money is kidding themselves.
Yes. And to a lot of people hearing that, $100,000 sounds like a lot of money. It's more than your annual salary. It's more than what the contract stated that you would make at EY, Deloitte, or anywhere else. But at the end of the day, it's more than you're making it at your daddy's IT firm too. At the end of the day, $100,000 is not that much money. Legitimately. $100,000, an average house in Atlanta, if you're not in the middle of the city, you're looking at closer to $500,000. You're looking at $800,000, somewhere in that range. $100,000 won't even get you an eighth of that house. And that's your revenue for the year. Pre-tax. There's something wrong there.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like there are so many psychological heuristics that are at play in our day-to-day lives. And that six-figure mark is such a heuristic of people here. Like, that's when you go from 5 to 6 digits. That's when the number that we typically hear, that 100,000 has such a gravity to it, because at the end of the day, please, nobody get this misunderstood. James and I are not saying that we don't appreciate $100,000. I appreciate the hell out of $100,000.
You want to give me $100,000? I'll take it.
I'm your guy. But
right here.
It's acknowledging that even though there are some people who make $20K, when I was at UGA, my salary on paper, pre-tax, pre-benefits, expenses was $30K, right? So it's like on paper, that's $2,500 a month. I was touching like 17, 18.
Same thing when I was at the sheriff's office.
You see?
The sheriff's office. Right there over $30K, like 31.5 pre-tax. My checks were not that big.
And so it's like, on one hand, I can understand there's some people who are like, and granted, we're just using this 100K as an example right now. It's an easy example. But when somebody might be coming from 30K or below, even what a lot of people make when they come out of college, which is right that 50 to 60K mark, maybe 70, depending on where you live, understanding for a lot of people, sure, 6 figures could be life-changing. But if 6 figures is life-changing, how life-changing could 7, could 8 figures be, right? And so just that stretch of the mind, of the imagination, because another risk, I would say, is that when people achieve what they thought they couldn't, that's a pivotal crossroad, because either then complacency can kick in, because it's like, okay, cool, I got all my chores done. All right, time to go watch TV. Or that's when they say, all right, bet. Now we 10X it, right? And I think that's really what the root of this conversation is about, is how can one build the skill set of stretching the bounds of their imagination?
Yeah, the actual $100,000 mark is not what this is about at all. So I think that for starters, to even get to a place where you can conceive that you can do, maybe it's hit a mile time at a certain place. It's this fast of a mile, or lift this much weight, or cook food that tastes closest to Gordon Ramsay. It's all these things. Thinking bigger, we're talking about it in monetary terms, but thinking bigger could mean that you're just thinking closer to the actualization of a goal, and that be something that plays into wherever you're trying to go in life. Again, weight, could be the money, could be a car that you're driving. You could have thought that your life would be, I'm going to go be a 9 to 5 in a cubicle, and you find out that you love to write, and you never give any energy to thinking that you could be a writer, quote unquote. But had you done that on your deathbed, you look back and you say, damn it. There's the AVI of me standing next to me where I was a New York Times bestseller author 10 times over. There's, I forget who says this. I was listening to something not too long ago, and it might have been Les Brown. It might have been someone like that, E.T. or, Eric Thomas or someone along those lines. But like on your deathbed, all of the risks that you didn't take, all of the things that you wanted to do that you didn't bring to life because you were scared or you said, I've got time. They'll all be looking back at you. They'll all be looking back at you as you're about to take your last breath. Do you want to be in a position where the individuals that are staring back at you are all the manifestations that you could have accomplished, the things that you could have been if you had just believed in yourself a little bit more? And Sae'Von laughs a little bit at the, as you're on your deathbed there potentially, because I almost died in the car today. And that was a very, very aggressive reminder that life is precious, very close to getting smashed by a semi. So thinking bigger. Well, I think it first starts with writing something down. I mean, to bring something to life, it's again, and we've talked about what's phooey and what's this and yada da 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 energy. I know a lot of people are like, y'all are wild and crazy, whatever. Cool, I'll be wild and crazy and rich.
Right, proof in the pudding, baby.
Right, writing things down. I have a really hard time with writing things down because honestly, when you write it down, it makes it real. And when you have to look at that every day and you realize that you're not necessarily taking steps to do that, you start to feel some type of way about yourself. So writing things down, I think, is the first step. But maybe even before that is thinking about what you want. Think about where you're at and what you want. Because that looks different for everybody. I mean, fact and point, some people, they're out for a specific relationship. They're out for a job title. They're out for validation from... People are out for different things. They're desiring different things. But to give yourself the space to think, well, I think you might need to understand where you're at right now, and then give some space to thinking about where you would be satisfied or where you would be happy if you saw yourself from the third person being.
Yeah, man. All of that starts with the self-awareness, because if somebody's uninformed about their own desires, aspirations, goals, dreams, how can they then sit down and write them down? Because there is a process to it. And somebody can have a thought, and then before they even get a chance to sit down, the thing happens. But to your point, how does one kind of build that house up? And so you start by having some self-awareness, right? So your great qualities, your qualities you hope to work on, build, how your relationships are looking, what you desire professionally. I can't remember the name of what this process might be called, or this activity, this exercise. But I remember several years ago, I had a friend of mine, her name's Basha. And she was kind of dealing with a lot in life. And so it was something that I think I learned when I was doing the Cutco thing at one of our seminars. But basically, it was like you take a piece of paper and then you write down the main categories of your life. So you have basically family and friends, so relationships. And then you have intellect, you have money, you have professional, you have basically like hobbies or interest, you have physical, emotional, and it's like these different big categories. And then you give yourself a score on those categories. And so then you can kind of take an assessment of, you can do 1 to 10, you can do 1, 3, 5, whatever. But you can then look back and ask yourself, okay, where am I excelling, doing well? Where am I dropping the ball potentially? What deserves more attention? And so I just throw that out there in case somebody's like, well, I don't know how to set my goals, whatever. So if you haven't done something like that and you're lacking clarity, begin there. Once you get the clarity, you can begin to lay out these goals. Now, once you lay out these goals, one or two things are going to happen. You're either going to start moving towards them with some type of action, as you like to say, with the radical action, right?
Messy, radical action.
You know what I'm saying? Or you don't. So cool, you got a choice right there. Let's assume you're gonna go down the action route. Lovely. So now we're taking action. So now, how fast does this thing come about? And how is that related to your action? Because that is actually the hack that a buddy of mine, Eddie Malouf, first shared with me back at UGA. And he was reading this book, or he was doing something through like the Grant Cardone series, but that was the first time I heard about like the 10X factor or the 10X event. And so I remember him sharing with me this idea of any goal or aspiration you have, 10X what you expect the outcome to be. Because for you to get there, it requires that your effort be 10X what it was from that original goal. And at the end of the day, it's not about you hitting the 10X or not, obviously, but if you put in that amount of effort that would be required for you to achieve that 10X, you should very easily hit the goal that you originally put down, right? And so that was part of a big shift in mindset for me, and even coming into this year, we had our kickoff meeting, and I wrote down how much I wanted to make this year. And then I sat there and I thought about it, and I was like, fuck it, nigga, times 10. And then I was like, ooh, that's a bigger number, And so with that, it required me to think a little bit differently about how I was going to get to that outcome. And then it's like you can take that same philosophy and just start applying it to different areas of life. Not everything is a quantity that you can just add a zero to necessarily, but that idea of, okay, like something I've been in mind is really good about you is when you're doing outreaches or just like the massive effort. You're doing it last year, did this year, like, okay, I was trying to figure something out, trying to network better, so I hit up 500 people on LinkedIn. And I'd be like, God damn, boy, fuck. And just like where somebody like myself, if I reach out to 5 people, I'd be like, yeah, man, I'm doing so much networking, and when somebody starts to figure out what areas of their life they want to really grow massively, not just improve, right, but grow massively, that's where they kind of start to apply these frameworks of how do you look at it. Like, even we made a joke the other day, you just had a contract come in from, I don't want to divulge the details if you don't want to, but a nice little contract came in, and when you updated us about it in the group, I was just like, pocket change, you know what I mean? Just because I saw this an opportunity to remind us, our unit, that like, look, we got big, big goals. So if it ain't the billions and the trillions, we talking pocket change, right?
Yeah, we're talking not where it's not where we want to be. It's not where we need to be. It's something that has to be framed as this is a stepping stone. This is not the end goal. If that is the end, if the contract that came through is the end goal, then I need to go ahead and just shrivel my world up a little bit, and go sit in the corner, because that's not the life I want to live. That is a step along the journey. But that brings us, I think, to this point. Your circle has a lot to do with that.
Talk it.
The accountability, the community. Some would say that community is better than accountability, and I would call you a bullshitter. You need accountability because so many of you want to just be, let's be patted on the back and, you're doing great. No, most of the time you're not doing great. Most of the time you're doing a shit job, and you need to do much better. And this can be seen in your relationships. This can be seen in your business. This can be seen in myself too. 2 weeks ago, I'm working 16 hours at the computer. Why the hell am I working 16 hours at the computer when I can get that same work done in 6? Because I was not efficient, because I didn't let my fellow brothers know that I was sitting at the computer that long to do work. I intended to just stay in isolation by myself, and I was just going to figure it out. But without that accountability, if you just have community, it can turn into a positive feedback loop of negative shit. It can turn into an echo chamber of rah, rah, we're so great, look at us, as we compare ourselves to one another. But in your accountability and in your community, it's not about you versus them. Where's the community compared to other communities? Where's that group of people compared to the people that are viewed at the high points in the industries that we want to be in, that we're in? I don't think native assets is something that you want to get to 100K and be done with it. I don't think that Powerline is something that AJ wants to just be, let's get 50 companies on and we're done.
Mm-hmm. And if I could for a moment, even today, when we were getting ready for the other episode, we saw a demonstration of him stretching his own belief system because, and I don't think there's any crazy information. He's had a lot of meetings over the last few weeks. And so what I postulated was that through one of those meetings with investors, he realized, like, you know what? He realized the value of what it is he's building and decided to make a change in the pricing structure that reflected his new appreciation for the value of Powerline. And so once again, and this is not some new thing, it's like he's had the pricing structure figured out for months. And so once again, to your point, who are you surrounding yourself with? Because it goes back to that age-old wisdom of, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You know what I mean? You don't want to be the richest one in the room. You don't want to be the most in shape in the room. You don't want to be any superlative in the room because if you are the superlative in the room, it better be because you're talking to your mentors, right? And then you better be able to go to another room where you have, or your mentees, and you better be able to go to another room where you can talk to some mentors. And so by having that built around you of these people who can kind of not just pat you on the back, and just kind of make you love yourself. Everything's going exactly as it should. Nah, bro, you dropped the ball. You fucked up. Like, case in point, Native Assets Foundations were supposed to be launched in end of March. It's July, right? And so none of y'all did it in an ugly way, but having these consistent accountability meetings, I knew every week.
Where the hell is Foundation?
Hey, man, this is what we did, cuz. This is what we got done. And so there was still that pressure on myself, and I'm grateful for it because it allowed me to, one, not go on the extreme of where I'm now all self-defeating because I didn't hit my goal, and I give up on it like a little bitch. And I'm also not on the side of where it's like, all right, well, fuck everything else and fuck everybody, and y'all don't understand why it takes so. It's just like, look, this is what we doing. This is what the goals are, feedback. And that can be a valuable framework in any area of somebody's life. And it can be good to have these, not idols and not anything that you're worshiping, but standards or goals, and that whole idea of even a vision board, of putting audacious things on there. Like I told y'all, early in the year, and I wasn't really speaking on it much. I was like, yeah, man, I'm about this Porsche. And it's like, Porsche? One of those type of cars? It's like, yeah.
$150 oil change.
And it's like, okay, reason I'm making that stretch as well in terms of what I feel is worth it or what quality I want to experience in my life is because I also am working and know that other areas of my life are going to grow to such an extent, or a Porsche to me makes no difference of a Porsche or if I'm getting what was a Chevy when I bought it several years ago. And so just having a cohesive way in which somebody is across the board stretching their imagination for what's possible with them, because I don't think it works very well if you only do it in one area. Right? Oh, I want to 10x how much money I make, which is probably what most people would want to do. You got to 10x your effort on being a good human being. You got to 10x your effort on your health. You have to 10x your effort on the type of relationships, the quality of relationships that you have, because then your whole energy is we 10x, and don't let me limit you. Goddamn 1000x that bitch. Put a Google in front of it, right? Do what you got to do. But I find, as I think most people will, one area of your life greatly influences the other areas of your life. So if you can get them all on board, amen.
What's interesting about that too is we celebrate people out here that have one area figured out, that they're the best at one area. For example, professional athletes. A lot of professional athletes, come for my neck if you want to. I see some of y'all in the gym and y'all definitely be running your mouth. Some of you make a whole lot of money, but you're shit people. Some of you are not making a whole lot of money, riding the bench, but you're great people. And very few of you are great people and making a lot of money. Because to be great in multiple areas, it requires decisive action day in, day out. Most people that have an imbalance or a disproportionate capability in some place tend to not see the need to better themselves in other spots. So just as you see an imbalance of power in the power dynamics with law enforcement and those getting pulled over, with literally anything, you have people that are hyper-focused on being great in one place. But I would encourage every single person listening to this, even if you don't ever listen to another episode again, get better in every area. Have people that can hold you accountable for different things. Okay, if you want to be spiritual, Surround yourself with people that you find are further along their spiritual journey than you are. If you want to be a better athlete, get yourself around coaches and other athletes that are better than you. If you want to make more money, maybe surround yourself with sound people that make a hell of a lot more money than you do. If you want to trade better, like this can be applied to everything. Yep. But not only do you need the community with people that are on this collective journey with you, this experience, but you also need people that can put you in your place and say, you're acting stupid. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be doing that. You do need to be doing this. If you're really about that, your actions will look this way. If you want to be rich, don't take advice from broke people.
Fact. And that's with anything.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I know we keep bringing it back to money, but that's the easiest way for us to communicate the concept that we're here, because you can see it. You can see the ones and zeros in your bank account, or the lack thereof. You can see the green numbers or the red numbers in your bank account. You can see the debits and credits.
And I would add to that the beautiful thing about once you have figured out the money part of your life, and for some people, 6 figures and they're straight because they get by on $500 a month, right? For some people, their appetite would necessitate $1 million, $10 million, $100 million. That's not our place to call, right? But once somebody locks in the money part, in my humble opinion, there becomes very, very little excuse to not begin to pour into the other areas, because that's the funny thing about money, is that either people figure it out in such a way that the money gives them freedom, or they find themselves in a situation where they are slave to the thing that makes them the money.
Money's never a problem until you don't have it. Cardone talks about that a lot. And it's interesting, Ryan was talking about this too. You get your personal finances, Ryan Odom, for those of y'all that don't know who that is, super cool guy, has a finance course, personal finance, great dude. He says all the time that, you get your personal finances in check, a lot of other things, the capability and your ability to open up and better other parts of your life because you're not stressed about the money, because it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs here, right? If you're having to worry about the roof, the food, and getting to and from your job, car or no car, hop on MARTA, you have less time to spend on other things. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's 24 hours in a day, right? And if you're talking about day by day getting to a metric that you're trying to hit, you just don't have as much energy. You don't have as much time. Mm-hmm. Goodness knows if you're if you're out here trying to better yourself in multiple scenarios and your finances are not in check, I promise you, you will not reach the heights of which you could in some other places if you're stressed about money. Does not mean that you need X amount of money. Some people, like Sae'Von was saying, are very comfortable with X number. We're not telling you how much money you need or how much money that you can or cannot spend. However, if you're not stressed about money, your life's going to be better.
Fact. You can't get away from that. And I think that's part of why instinctively we're using that kind of as the gauge for this conversation, because everybody has to figure out money. There's not a single person listening to this that does not have to figure out the money equation of their life. And at the end of the day, extending your comfort zone in terms of what one believes to be a possibility in their own life as a result of their own actions, like that's a necessary conversation. And in some ways, I'm surprised we haven't had it already, man.
About thinking big, dreaming big?
Yeah, like in that context. Not that we don't give off those intentions and those principles, but this is how you think big.
Well, sometimes it's just the energy we carry with us,
Yeah.
As they say. But I think that it's also one of the main, that belief, that lack of limiting belief is one of the main reasons why we keep running as aggressively as we do on the things that we're doing. We had an accountability group that was 6 people. We now have an accountability group that was 3 people. That is not a conversation for the podcast, but I will say that we decided that we wanted things that were much more closer tied to one another in direction. So it made sense for us to niche down and go harder on one another in a collective space with less people. But that, honestly, if you look at some of the things that we're doing, that was a turning point.
It definitely was. And because ultimately, the energy that you surround yourself with is either going to pull you up or it's going to pull you down. It's very, very, very unlikely it's going to keep you at the same altitude. And that's why it can be such a thing to navigate, and tough decisions often have to be made. If I look back to how I was spending my time 5 years ago, to how I spend it day in, day out now, it's vastly different, and even the quality of the relationships, what the relationships focus around, kind of the corral point of them, it's all very different, but I definitely feel like confidently I can say that damn near every decision I'm making in my life right now puts me on a positive course and trajectory. And that's taken many, many years. And that's not to say that I'm perfect in all areas of my life, but they have me on a better trajectory than if I weren't making certain decisions. And one of those turning points for me was when you even invited me into the accountability group way back when you did, because I definitely was like, man, fuck that shit. Like, yeah, I like James, but I don't know these other fellas, and but regardless, it got me into a consistent rhythm of being able to sit down with people who are operating in different fields and different spaces, but also want to operate at a high level. And I think that variety is good for people, so that sure, you want to find people who are moving in the direction that you're going, but it's like they can be moving in that direction up until this point, and then there's a transfer at the next destination, or I forget what the term is with the flights, or connecting flights sort of thing. And regardless, they helped you get to that one point, and that's just the other harsh reality about it, is not everybody's going to be in your life forever. Not everything you do is going to be forever. And
man, that's a whole nother. I mean, that's another podcast episode we need to go down, because you look at those people that have supported you romantically, that have supported you in business, that have offered you positions, that have worked alongside of you, that have been on the same sports teams as you. Not all these people are, almost none of them are going to be in your life forever.
Yeah.
Almost none of them. When you really think about it, I look at my circle now, and I look at my circle 5 years ago, and then 10 years ago. 16-year-old circle doesn't have almost anybody that 26-year-old circle has. At all. And there's some homies. I've got a bachelor trip coming up. I'm in a wedding with some people that I used to be very close with. I am not anymore. I am still looked at in that circle, but I don't rock with them day in, day out. I don't see them. I see 2 dudes every week without fail. The 2 dudes that pushed me when I left Fueled by Grit, when we separated all that, to start a damn new company on a new concept and run aggressively, all within 14 days. Filed new paperwork because of the group that I was with. Who you surround yourself with is super important. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. I mean, that's an age-old axiom. And I think Grover or someone said that in like very aggressively at a speech. But yeah, I mean, starts with the belief. You need the accountability.
And I'll add that. Show me your thoughts. I'll show you your reality.
There it is. And that's about all we have time for today. But appreciate y'all coming out. And yeah, many more talks to come. We are still releasing every week. So if you've missed one of these, Monday, 0900 hours, coming out Eastern time. Let's go. Every week.
Hell yeah. 0900, baby. Don't forget it.
Y'all be good.
Thank y'all, man. Peace.